Welcome, everybody, to the Fall Line with KS and Company. I'm Dave Capron. I'm here tonight with Angelo Ross. And we got the laughing going already. He's making fun of me. You're going to love this. Margie's laughing. Oh, God. It's like a switch, isn't it, Angelo?
Like a nerd switch.
It's like a nerd switch, man. I have to do it. It happens, man. That red dot goes on and the nerd switch goes on, and here we go. Because, what was it? Mr. Lipton there, Eric, was, telling us, we have to have a little more fun and not be so geeky, right? So, well, the nerd switch was on. Sorry, I guess we didn't do what he said. But hey, we have an absolutely awesome podcast for everyone this week. We have someone that I look up to a lot too. I consider her my coach, my mentor, and also the professor, I call her. Margie King is with us tonight, and really we should say Dr. King. And I think everyone, as we go through this podcast, will understand why. She's even done some stuff with Angelo from a distance to try to help him out, to get him back on the skateboard and skis, get him ripping on that ramp out in the backyard. But Angelo, it's snowing down there, right? We got to do the important things first, man. It's snowing. It's coming our way.
Yeah, it's snowing like hell right now. Cold, windy. Yeah, we needed this. This is our first proper storm, I think, of the year.
Cool.
Yeah,
that's
hopefully
good.
It's heading your way.
Yeah, it's heading our way. It'll hit me first. And then Margie's up by the mountain right now, and she's got Mount Washington in the background, which is pretty cool. We don't quite have that view, but Bretton Woods definitely has that view. I was up there this past week, and it was pretty good skiing. But Margie, thanks for coming on. I've been wanting this for a long time. I think we've been talking about it since I started the podcast and just haven't had the schedules right to get it to happen. And I do want to introduce you a little bit to our listeners, because it's a little more than just someone who knows a little bit about the body and a little bit about athletic training, a little bit about rehab. You have had some pretty distinguished awards of the New Hampshire Distinguished Athletic Trainer of the Year. The NATA is the National Athletic Trainers Association Distinguished Athletic Trainer Award. You've also had the National Athletic Trainer Award, Association Service Award, and their Kramer Award for Leadership and Excellence in Athletic Training, correct?
Yeah, I've been around for a while.
But it doesn't stop there. It's you are not just a one-time Hall of Famer, you're in the National Athletic Trainers Hall of Fame, and then also the Eastern Athletic Trainers Hall of Fame, correct?
Correct.
Yes. And it's not just athletic training. It's as we talk, I wanted to talk a little bit tonight about your background and how you became from where you started going to school to get where you are. And it's not just athletic training. I mean, you've been a lot into rehab and physical therapy stuff also, correct?
Yeah, I have a degree in physical therapy as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when all this came about, this was all kind of at the same time in terms of it started. You almost started skiing though, hopefully before then. And then that's why we're here, that you're a big skier. Been skiing. We've been teaching together for, oh my God, it's probably almost 25 years now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been a while. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So before we get into kind of your, I wanted to talk a little bit about your schooling and all that. I wanted to find out, which everyone loves to know, because we're kind of the ski podcast. When did you learn how to ski? Was it from friends? Was it family?
I learned how to ski when I was 12. The whole family went to Ragged Mountain. So we had summer friends from the Newfound Lake area, and they were local. So they skied at Ragged all the time. And I don't know how they talked my father into thinking that we should ski during the winter. So we, the first winter, so it's a summer house, although it did have a foundation to it, but the water used to pull out of the lake. So that first year, we literally had to walk down to the lake, and Dad was chopping a hole in the ice, and then we would be dragging the water up. That lasted for 1 year. And Mom was like, enough of that. So we got an artesian well the next summer. But I started at Ragged Mountain with the local friends over there. So the family all started together. My parents didn't ski per se. My dad tried, but he had had a hip replacement when he was younger and just, he couldn't get into a wedge. And back in the day, the hip replacements were not a ball and socket. They were a plate. So he tried, almost killed himself on the T-bar and then took his skis off and walked down. My mother single-handedly put this guy, I don't remember the guy's name, through graduate school with private lessons to learn how to ski. And she went up to the top of Ragged once. I had already left for college. So it took a while.
It took a while.
College and she went up to the top once and came down. I guess it took her a while with him. And they're like, "Oh, you ready to go up again?" She's like, Nope, just wanted to see where my kids are going. Took her skis off and never skied again. So that was it for parental support. So we were kind of on our own, but there were so many parents of the kids that we were hanging with that it was no big deal. Plus Ragged, I don't know if you guys, Angelo, you probably haven't been over there, but it's this cute little mountain. It has a second peak to it right now, but at the time there was one way up and one way down. So, Dad could stand at the bottom of the mountain, and you knew the lifties, so they knew when we went up because it was a little rat pack of kids, and so it's not like you could lose us. And then we're on the hill, and everybody else's parents were on the hill too, so it was really safe. Place to be. And then actually, as I thought back on it, we took lessons. So Dad would buy a book of lesson tickets. So he probably single-handedly supported the ski school for the first couple of years and got us all through. And, once we were kind of off and running, we stopped. But we also, at that time, we were ridiculously fortunate. So Hans Jaeger and this other guy, Werner Hassig, they came over there from Austria, and I don't know the whole story behind it when I was young, but that's who taught us, along with BB Woods, who I swear is still teaching. I think she's still behind the ski school desk, but BB was local. But we had great training and started off with lessons from the get-go. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's good. Did you enjoy the lessons?
Yeah. I felt safer. Well, no, I just felt safer being with those guys. Well, my other option was to ski with my brothers. So I was much safer taking lessons from those guys than skiing with my three brothers and their friends, of which, none of them had sisters. So I was I kind of enjoyed my lessons, to be honest with you.
Anytime you didn't have to hang with the bros, man. I don't want to hang with those brothers. Oh man. So that now, as you, that was pretty much through all the years of, in grade school, right? Grade school and through high school was kind of the Ragged Mountain ski thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of cool. Cause then in college, it kind of waned a little bit, but, I know that because we've chatted about that over a few beers, but, basketball was really your sport.
Yes.
I mean, it's what you really were doing. So you had the ski thing going on through the schools and on the weekends and all that, but, basketball was your gig.
Yeah, well, and I kind of got away with it in high school because that was back in the day where they actually let you play more than one sport, and the games were during the week, and so you could go skiing with your family and no one would be upset with you. But I got to college and you couldn't, so I just skied for quite a while. Like once I got to college, up until when I was about 30, I skied once a year every year. So I didn't want to stop skiing, like if you wait for a couple of years and then you get afraid to go back on the hill, then I didn't want that to happen. So I just skied once a year every year usually during spring break. And Loon Mountain was close enough at that time. So Ragged didn't have a lot of snowmaking, so it would have been melted down by then. But I could go up to Loon. And so I kind of just kept my toe in the water until I was 30. And then.
Because the ski teaching gig really didn't come in till kind of almost out of school, right?
Oh, no.
I should say not grad school in that, because we have a lot that went to your bachelor's.
Oh, no, it was after I had. So actually, it's Getting into ski teaching was is a really funny story. I had 3 degrees by the time I started my
That's what I thought. Yeah.
career. I had my baccalaureate from UNH. I had done a master's in exercise science, which was awesome at UMass. And then I had gone back for a second baccalaureate in PT. And I was just finishing that up, and I was kind of bummed. I was expecting it to be that physical therapy degree to be a little bit more exciting than it was, but I had come off of such a great master's degree at UMass that it was hard to match it. So anyways, I already had 2 degrees. I was able to transfer a lot of credits in. So I finished in December with that PT degree. And I just needed a break from everything. So I knew I could get a job as ski patrol because I had my EMT. So I knew I could do that. But I went up, God, this is Mike Bannon saved my butt. I went up to Loon and, found the ski school director, and it was Mike Bannon. And I said, this was actually the year before. And I said, I'm going to be out of school. I'm going to finish off the degree. I'm going to be out of school in December. Do you think I could teach skiing, that winter? Because everybody else would have been finishing their degree in the spring. So I figured I had plenty of time to look for a job. I had to take the board exam, and I was going to have plenty of time to study because, of course, the lifts closed at 4. So I figured I could go home, study 2 or 3 hours, take the exam in February, and I'd be good to go. So Mike said, sure, we'll take you. So I come back. I couldn't come back until the middle of December that next year. And I come back in, and I had no idea what I was doing. You got to remember, too, I've been on the hill once a year, every year since I left college, which like 21. So it was almost 10 years. I'd skied 10 times. I was a decent skier, and so anyways, he took me, and as luck would have it, my friend Kim Nisbet at the time, she's now Kim Stolowski, was also working full time. So I worked full time. So my very first year I worked full time. It's the only time I had a chance to work full time. And Kim was there, and Kim was working full time. And I literally had no idea what I was doing. So I would teach a lesson, and then if there was a gap in time, or maybe it was after 2 lessons, I would grab Kim, and I'd be like, all right, this is what I just did. Is it remotely close? Should I have done something different? And then gratefully on the weekends, we had a ton of level 3s. And when those guys were on the mountain, they were more than happy to work with you. So once I got to know them, and, I got some feedback, I was, by mid-season, I was okay. But it was the beginning that was a little sketchy.
But it was the true inauguration into kind of the ski school, the ski instructor type thing, because you didn't go home right away at 4:00 to study for a couple hours, did you? Right.
Well, that was the other thing, right? So I had this awesome plan because I'm taking my board exam in February. I'm going to be ahead, which I did do, mind you, ahead of the curve. But like when I take a test, I know I'm going to pass it, or there's no point in me taking the test. Like I just don't take it to see if I can pass it. As you know, when I was doing my level 3, I own half of the gray hair in your head. But so I'm at Loon. There's only one way off the mountain, that bridge. And so you finish up and you can't get off the hill. So I'm with Kim, which I know people don't know her, but to know her is to love her. And so the solution, of course, is to go to the bar and wait for the traffic to settle. So we waited until the
Angelo's loving this.
Empty. It's really what happened. So, but so I tried to study. It just didn't really work with Kim being around. So we got to the point where the bartender loved us because we had this little entourage that came with us, and he could see us from the East Side Ski School. This is way back at Loon. And the bar was the Bunyan Room. He could see us leave the ski school house. So, and of course, the bar would be packed. So we'd make our way up, and there was a sign on the side of the bar that said no service, on the side of the bar. And so behind the sign, there'd be 2 beers. And so me and Kim would go up, and then we just slide our hand around, grab the beer. And everybody's like, how'd you get served so fast? It's like, well, plan ahead. It's like, it was silly. It was silly. You shouldn't have had that much fun or a 3 or 4 month time period. It was just,
and we should,
so that was my introduction to.
And Kim, has done some pretty big things since then too. I mean, in the education world, she's gone on.
I wonder how the 2 of us even made it, but yeah, she has her doctorate. She's got a level 3. So she got a level 3 before me. I got my doctorate before her. So I finished my level 3, and she looks at me and she goes, "This means I have to get my doctorate." And I'm like, "Yep." So
yeah. So that all the way back from full-time ski instructors to the doctorates is pretty cool. Both Dr. King and Kim.
Dr. Stolowski. Yeah.
Dr. Stolowski.
And she dragged me to my first PSIA clinic, which I hated. She was going for level 2. I think I had to do a registered clinic. I didn't like the guy. I don't even remember who he was. I was bored to death because our level 3s were so good. We did so much training at Loon. And actually, speaking of Loon, right? So we had our level 3s, but we had Chip Loring was there. We had Jeb was there. Peter Weber was there. Kathy Brennan came in at the tail end as I was leaving. It's like, oh, geez. And Lisa Harrington Siegel, I think I remember telling you that Kim and I were Lisa's training ground for her level 3. She would like try stuff out on us to see if it would work before she took her level 3. I mean, we just had fabulous people at Loon. So it was hard not to learn. It was hard not to like it. So.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
But it's neat how you go back to those times and then how much fun we had when we first started out and teaching in the trenches every day. So Angelo feels like he's still there because he just started. He's a part-timer.
Or running a lift.
He's running a lift. Oh man. But I do, Marge, before we get into kind of the big thing, I wanted to talk about some things folks can do to stay in shape during the season. But I wanted folks to kind of know there's some cool ways you went from what you were started to study at UNH when you started to go for your bachelor's. It was in medical technology, which doesn't surprise me in terms of your technical thought process and cognitive thought process. But that changed. You finished that. You actually, your junior year, I know we've chatted that it wasn't like, nope, not going to stop doing that. I'm going to finish it, but I'm going to go another route also. And it's kind of a neat story that I think people would like to hear that of how you went from being medical technology to I'm going to be, the athletic trainer.
Oh, well, it was no brilliance on my part. That was a phone call home to mom and dad. Actually, it's my senior year, right? So this has got to be a parent's nightmare. The week after Thanksgiving of my senior year in college, I call home and it's like, I don't think I want medical technology. I'm like eyeball deep into the degree. I'm like months away from graduating. And so my mother's one would pick up the phone. My dad was kind of hard of hearing. And so she goes, "Let me get your father." I'm like, "Oh God, here we go." So, so dad gets on the phone. He goes, "So what's up?" I said, "Dad, I think I want to change over. I think I like to do athletic training," which nobody even knew what athletic training was at that point in time. And it wasn't even a degree. Like you had to take certain courses and have a baccalaureate in a related field in order to sit for that board exam. So, God, he was so calm when I look back on it. He goes, "So are you having trouble in school?" No. Like I carried A's in high school, and to get into medical technology your last year. So at the end of your junior year, you had to have a particular GPA and, you had to get accepted into your senior year. So it's not like it's having trouble academically. Then he goes, "Do you think you could finish the degree?" I'm like, "Yeah, I only have a couple months." And I'm sure he's sitting there like, "Yeah, no kidding." And he goes, "Do you think you could take the board exam?" I'm like, "Sure, I can take the board exam." He goes, "All right, if you finish the degree and take the board exam, you can go back to UNH for a year and take the other courses. I had some other courses I had to take to finish off so I could sit for another board exam in athletic training. And that's what I did.
And what precipitated that change? Like, what was it that, like, okay, I'm going to make that change? I know the story.
Yeah.
And there was a particular person. I mean, can you let people know and discuss that story? I think it's really neat as to how that happened.
Yeah. Well, it revolves around basketball. So I was not starting my sophomore year, and I had started all the way through high school. So it was just, I was on, like, sometimes started, sometimes didn't. Not a real good bench person, right? So I wanted to play basketball during the summer, and I had an ankle problem since high school. And so I wanted to play basketball during the summer, but I knew I was going to have to get my ankle taped, because at that time during all the summer leagues are outside. So you're going to be out in cement, and I knew my ankle would never hold up. And, oh, by the way, we're talking back in the day, there weren't any women's leagues. I was going to be playing pickup with the guys out on the playground during the summer. So I had to have my ankle taped. So, and there was no athletic training coverage for women at that time either. So I couldn't go to the women's athletic trainer because they didn't exist. So I played basketball with some phys ed kids, and they just said, go downstairs and see Dwight Altman, because of course the athletic training room was right down next to the men's locker room. And so like I crawled, you kind of creep downstairs, like nobody went down there unless you were a guy. So I kind of creeped downstairs, find Dwight, and said, look, here's the deal. This is what I need to do. Can you teach me how to tape? He goes, I can teach you how to tape, but I'm short tapers for spring football. So if I teach you how to tape, I need you to come in for 2 hours, tape ankles, and then you can go. And it's just from, spring break until the end of school. And it's like, oh God, I hate football. I just hate it because they got all the money. I mean, you got to remember when I was playing, there was no money, girls athletics or for women's athletics. It was a smidge before Title IX, if you want to put it in perspective. So the last thing I wanted to do was be around the football players, but means to an end. So I was like, fine, I'll do it. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I was good at it as well, but I had my ankle taped. Like I knew if you don't tape it correctly, you wind up with tape cuts, and the tape cuts will stay with you all season. So I was a really good ankle taper, and the guys appreciated it. And I think they understood I was there for a reason, that I just wasn't a girl that was hanging out. But besides the fact that I'd grown up with my brothers, so there wasn't a lot of wiggle room. Like whatever they gave to me, I could give back to them, and I could hold my ground pretty well. So that's what started the whole thing, and I absolutely loved it and did it my entire junior year. And then my senior year, I was tied up with the internships for medical technology, and that's when I called home. I used to do it on the weekends, though, for the games, and I called home, and said I'd kind of like to do athletic training. So, but Dwight was a game changer for me.
Yeah. And that's kind of what's interesting, because as I, did my research, and you're like, how did he find out about this stuff? But
for you, it was neat. Where did you get this?
And for me, it was neat because you have, the whole time that I've known you for 20 something years, that you've done an incredible amount for me. I mean, Angelo was like, cool, she's going to help me out. When he had his injury, you give a lot back to those that are out there doing and trying to help others. And you really make a difference doing things. So, the information that a lot of our ski pros on our staff have, and snowboard pros on the staff over the last few years, have been tremendous. And I think some of it must, even if it's unconscious, go back to kind of, that Dwight that helped you out and said, well, I can do this here, but you got to do that. Because usually you don't just give us something without going, you guys are going to have to work a little bit. Like we have to stretch, we have to do something, or we have to go ski with you. It's like, okay, as long as we go skiing on Friday, we're going to work on some stuff with my skin. It's always, it's not hard, but it's like you make people earn it. Even if they're not paying for it, it's like there's some skin in the game that they have to earn this, that it's worth something. So you got to give something. I think that's kind of neat.
Yeah. Well, and I you brought it up first, but I guess I did get that from Dwight. It was it was definitely, he changed the trajectory of my life. He really did. And sadly, he had colon cancer and he didn't live that long. In matter of fact, I hadn't even finished my master's. So I was only out of UNH a couple of years and we lost him. So he has no idea where my athletic training, well, he does, of course, but he wasn't around physically to know where my athletic training career went. But, he never hesitated with the football. The football coach wasn't all that happy that I was there. And then I swear, to make matters worse, he put me on ice hockey on the shoulder season because, once I got in, I started playing basketball. I couldn't do any more work. And so I finished my athletic training education with all of my experience on football and men's ice hockey. And that was unheard of for a woman at that point in time. And I walked out with more experience than a lot of the guys had. And it just gave me footing. I was so confident as what I was doing. And I knew it. I had the exposures. You can see enough of stuff in one football season that it could take 3 seasons, 4 seasons to see in other sports. So, it was, I marvel sometimes when I look back and I see how the way that things unfolded over time. And I'm still friends with those guys. Do you know what's fun with that is that, so I know them, I know their wives, I know their kids. So I'll get phone calls from some of the guys sometimes, and one of their kids gets hurt and they're like, "Dad, you got to call Margie." So it's been fun over the years for sure.
Nah, see, Angelo, it's like even the kids are getting it now, but she does. I've been around because like Bruce Rohr up at Cranmore, you always in touch, and he's big UNH football guy, and that whole crew that you knew from then that she's still in touch with. It's cool. I thought you'd enjoy that, Angelo, because it really, I think, touched on, our learning connection model, and we're thinking about people skills and the relationships that we bond with and all that kind of stuff and communication. He's over there. He was smiling.
Well, I was laughing because when you were talking about if Margie gives you some help, you're going to give something in return. And that was exactly my experience when I got hurt. That was two Augusts ago. And just by chance, that was right after the shutdown happened. And I ended up as the chair of the e-learning task force for the Eastern Division. And Dave, that's where, of course, this podcast was birthed from that relationship there. But we did the Fall Fitness Series, and Margie was the kickoff episode of that. And through working with her, through working with you, Margie, you learned I had just gotten this injury, based on the stupid things I do with my body. But I was in a bad way. Like I was in a bad way. And and I was scared too, because when you don't I got hurt on August 1st. And then when the pain subsided a couple of weeks later is when we were, when I met Margie through that process. But the pain had subsided from my injury, but I would be walking up the steps and I couldn't make it up. My toes would hit the steps, would hit the rise on the next step. And I thought I had a neurological disorder. I was freaking out, I had something coming on and end up telling, I don't remember how it happened, but end up telling Margie, and she agreed, thankfully for me, she agreed to sort of consult with me a little bit through this rehab process. But she said, first thing she said was, "You will not step on that skateboard for 6 months." And I'm pretty sure she made me say it like a gangster. She was like, "Say it." I said, "I won't get on it for 6 months." But the other thing I had to do, which is totally not my wheelhouse, sadly, was I had to keep notes. I had to journal my experience. And when we would talk every couple of weeks or whatever, she would want to know what was in the notes, but what was funny, originally, Margie, you were like, I'll do this for you. You can't get on the skateboard. I want this information, because you were going to give some of it to your undergrad students.
Yeah.
But then as we talked more and it sort of unfolded how hurt I was, she was like, I could never give this to undergrads.
No, because I like to use real people, cases with the students. And actually I was teaching graduate students. It's like, I couldn't even unroll it to them. It's like, I'm not going to do this to them. This is way too complicated. It's like, it wouldn't even be fair, like for the final exam, for them leaving the program. It's like, no, we're not going to use it. But we got your board. So you just said tonight before we get started that not with just me, but you took some additional steps and you're doing pretty good.
Yeah, I'm doing great. So the short version is that Margie sort of consulted as a PT, and then I have a local PT who I really, really like. He's really terrific, Steve Pedrotsky. He's an athlete. I met him by chance. I was having some shoulder problems, and Margie, I hope tonight at some point you talk about kinetic chain and stuff like that, because as I look back through my life and my injuries, I know they're all related. But anyway, I was having trouble with my shoulder and I wanted surgery. Like I was certain that was the answer, right? Because I did a WebMD search and that obviously gives you a medical degree. So I was certain that I knew what the problem was. And I go to UPMC in Pittsburgh and it was one of the first experiences I had where I walked in and like I was older than the doctor. I'm like, what is this? But anyway, he said, you don't need surgery. And he sort of reluctantly wrote me a script for PT. And I'm like, I'm not doing this. And I got home and my wife was like, you're doing it. So I kind of did one of these numbers and just sort of put my finger on the phone book and picked this guy, Steve Pedrotsky, who turned out to be terrific. So he got my shoulder up and running. And then he, about 2 years later, I blew my right ACL out and he rehabbed me after that surgery. So when I hurt my back 2 years ago, Margie plus Steve Pedrotsky plus Missy Murtha, my acupuncturist, who I'm such a big fan of that. Leanne Beatty was my massage therapist. And I just kind of had this army of this team, but yeah, at the beginning of the call, I haven't seen Margie for a while. We haven't talked for a while, but all of that stuff, plus my new personal trainer, Adam Brown, just figured out what was wrong. And it was like, I don't know, it was illuminating because it's like, I play hurt a lot. I didn't realize how hurt I was playing until a conversation with Margie. She's like, scale 1 to 10, how much pain do you have today? And I'm like, I don't remember. It was like 6 or whatever. And she said, do you know what normal is? I said, I don't know, like 2. And she's like, no, normal is no pain. I'm like, well,
she does that to us. She asks a question she knows we won't answer right. She just knows that we're going to screw it up. And it just, it rubs it right in the face to go, okay, I got to shut up now. She knows more than I do.
Just tell me what I should think. But I've never had no pain. And she's said that if you get with the right people and do the right thing, you can be pain free. And right now, like what I told Margie at the beginning of the call or before we got on the call was my SI joints haven't been out for 2 months. Like I'm pain free. I'm like sleeping through the night. Like it's terrific. And I owe you a huge debt of gratitude for that, Margie, because I don't think I would have stuck with it if you hadn't humiliated me like that.
I love it when that happens. Oh, man.
That's what makes me happy, though. It's like because your career would have been short-ended. You couldn't keep going like that. You just run out of body parts to hurt, and they are all connected. And so when you break enough of the connections, you can't keep going. So I'm grateful that you were willing to listen. That's what makes me happy. And then, and we're willing to add to the team, because a lot of times people want to go in, they just get their PT and they're good to go. And, you added the acupuncture and the massage, plus the PT. So you really do you got to remember that when you are that injured, I mean, you had multiple body parts that were down, that if you're that injured, you you can't just do one thing, because so much of the body is out of whack that you really need to go after it on multiple levels. Sometimes it's hard for people to wrap their heads around that. It's like, oh, I'm not doing that. It's too much work. It's too much money, and it's like, fine. I mean, in the beginning, that always used to bother me. Now I'm like, that's fine. Let me know when you've had your surgery. I'll help you out post-op.
Margie used to call them. You can't just put Band-Aid on it.
I wonder how many people quit their activities though for something that's actually fixable. I taught with a girl who was a runner in college, went to her undergrad on a running scholarship. And this is, 20 or 25 years after we had graduated from our undergrad programs, but she quit running. And I said, we were talking about it, like, why don't you run anymore? And she said, her lower back just gave her too much trouble. And I'm just thinking to myself now, like hindsight, like, I bet her hip flexors are too tight and her SI joints out. But that's like fixed. It's a little bit
of knowledge, and then you can do it. But actually, you're probably right.
It's fixable. It's probably fixable. But she quit running because you say, like, people don't want to, for whatever reason. I'm not judging them. Just say don't do it.
Well, the other thing that was helpful for you is you found a good physical therapist. It's like, I teach in a physical therapy program, but we teach people to get back to day-to-day activity. And I really think it's my athletic training. Like, I had to get somebody ready for the next game. Like, you couldn't do, you had to stay on top of the literature, because you had to keep looking for ways to get people safely better. Whereas in the general public, you just got to make sure they can walk up the first 3 steps of their house and they can get to work. It's a completely different mindset, and the timetable is not as tight as it is in athletics. And so you found a great guy who, like you said, was an athlete himself. And so had that frame of reference and understood what you needed to have done. It's one of the issues. Sorry, I'm going to have a million soapboxes, but it's one of the issues with the total knee and total hip replacements right now. So, I got friends who are having total knees and total hips, and the rehab is for low-level 70-year-olds, and they're doing the total knees and the total hips earlier now, and they have not changed the rehab for a total knee or a total hip. So you've got skiers who are going in for total knee, total hips. And my brother just had his knee done, and he's a couple of years younger than me. And so, PT comes home and you do your little exercise things. Well, he, like, in 2 days, that he knew more because, of course, I had coached him over the years. He's had some other issues, but he was like ahead of the home PT, and the home PT was like, yeah, you're fine. So you were fortunate, I guess, long story short.
Well, it's funny too, because I'm realizing as when I'm thinking about it, Steve has a similar vibe you do. Like, if I walk into his office, he'll be like, okay, what hurts? Whatever, SI joint. How'd you do it? Skateboard. And he'll just stand there and stare at me. How old are you? Just stare, just say nothing, just in the eyes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Angelo, I get it all the time, man. I'll here in the farm, she knows what I do here in the farm, the different stuff, spring, summer, and then fall, and the ice cream shop and all the different. And I'll tell her something. She's like, oh, what did you do this time? What stupid thing did you try to lift or move? Or you stood bent over for 4 hours, right, Margie?
Yeah, it's like, did it cross your mind to stand up a couple times in between? It's like, or it's like you and your bike, right? You get on your bike for a gazillion hours, go in one direction, and it's like moving the Rock of Gibraltar to get him to get off of his bike and to walk backwards a little, for 2 minutes, 5 minutes after biking for 2 hours going that way. It's talk about muscle imbalances, but it's just, you guys are tough to work with.
Well, I've incorporated that. I do bicycle tours in the summer, and I've incorporated that tidbit on our tours. We do multi-day trips, and a lot of times folks are in really good shape and they've trained for the rides, but a lot of folks haven't. So at all the support stops, all the lunch stops at the end of the day, we'll walk backwards for a while. And
nice.
I learned that.
And why don't you tell those cyclists out there and the people that want to get on the bike? Because we encourage a ton of people to get on the bike, mountain bike, road bike, for multiple reasons to help out. But, what's the walking backwards for, so they know, Marge?
Well, so when you're on your bike, you're using mostly flexor moments. So from a mechanical point of view, everything is closed down and flexed. And from a motor control perspective, I mean, you're usually on your bike for a while, an hour or two, right? So that in your system, you're primarily flexed, and you haven't given any stimulus to your extensors for them to work. So you get off your bike. I mean, you probably feel it anyways. You get off your bike and you're just this little flexed old man, right? So
never.
Yeah. So if you would just take a few minutes, and Angelo, you've probably seen this then on the bike tours, and then just walk backwards, which is primarily a series of extensor moments. So mechanically going into extension, then it literally resets the system, because it's a neurological reset. It doesn't take that long. So if you just give the input to the system that there are extensor muscles that need to be used, even though you've been flexing them for 2 hours, and then you finish, you finish on a neuromuscular basis in a more balanced presentation. And so it should help, with recovery, basically.
And that goes into the which you've had me dabble in and had some of the crew and the ed staff do with the Burdenko system with Tom Barbeau. That everything we do with Tom, if we do it forward, we do it backwards. Yeah. And any movement with arms going one way, everything has to go both directions, whatever we're using when we do that with Tom. And speeds, we've got to. Yeah. He has to do things slow, medium, fast. I mean, how important are those things to make sure the body stays more balanced?
Well, the Burdenko system is a beautiful system. I mean, that's a whole system in of itself. But if the purpose of the Burdenko system is to provide conditioning for the body. So it's not conditioning for a particular sport, it's conditioning for the body. And so with the conditioning for the body, it asks you to move forward, backwards, right side, left side. So just like I did with the bike, right? So you got to go forward the bike. So you're doing a little bit of backwards after you finish off the bike. The same thing with Burdenko. All of your conditioning is forward, backwards, right side, left side, and then coordination things as well. So it is a wonderful system, and it's on land as well as in water. So it works really well.
Yeah, I love it when we go in the water with Tom, because when I brought the crew over the few times we did, every time I warn them, because after I went the first time, I figured it out that we're not in the shape Tom's in. I don't care the difference in age. And I started doing that. I think the first time you had me over there was, oh my God, it must be at least 15 years ago. Yeah. So I was a lot younger. And, I'm going, oh, this will be easy. And we're in the gym and doing all this stuff with him. And you don't think anything of it. We're doing the stuff in the gym. It feels pretty good. I got to take Angelo and let him do this. And then he puts us in the water.
Yeah.
Well, you can't cheat in the water. You can cheat the reps and everything in the gym. So I tell everybody to go easy in the gym, because when he put us in the water with the floaties and that stuff to do stuff, it is impossible to do the activities he wants to do. And everybody's hurting. Like even Sue Kramer, she'll probably kill me for saying this, but Sue Kramer, who's probably the most in shape for that stuff and way better in shape in all the parts of skiing than I am. But I mean, she is very much the way she works out and her knowledge base. And she was sore 2 days later, like everybody else. It was hard to walk.
Well, it's a wonderful program. It's very comprehensive, and Tom is very good at it. He learned from Igor Burdenko, and it's fascinating when you start thinking about your own workout programs. And it doesn't have to be a full-on Burdenko program, but if you start thinking about what you're doing and how much you're doing in one direction, and just even something like lunges, when you go into, like the lunges aren't even step forward lunges, they're walking lunges, so that you've got to be able to propel yourself forward with the lunge. But if you lunge forward, you got to lunge backwards. You ever tried doing a backwards lunge? Well, you did.
Yeah, he has to do them.
Yeah. And so with that, right, so your lunges are in that forward plane, whether it be forward or backward, so it's sagittal plane, but it's in that plane. But then what he will have you do is he'll have you do your arms in the opposite plane, so it's in the coronal plane. So you've got your legs moving in a sagittal plane, and your arms are moving in a coronal plane, and you like wind up with a headache trying to figure out where to put your arms and where to put your legs as you do the reciprocal motion of your legs. It's fascinating stuff.
Yeah, the coordination part of it is something I haven't seen in a lot of other, or I don't think I've really seen it personally unless I like look for it, but it isn't spoken about in any of the training programs. And it's like specific to the Burdenko that coordination is important. And all those, I mean, we're doing stuff with our arms in certain ways and then our feet, and like it's the rub. It's worse than rubbing your head and tapping your belly kind of thing. It's like, oh my God, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So,
so I've been very fortunate. I mean, Tom is in and around the Plymouth area. He's out of Waterville, so I've been able to spend a fair amount of time with him, which is how we got it set up for you guys to come down and give it a try too. So
because I think I've been at least 3, if not 4 times with him now, but that's been a blast of times we've had to do that and there's so much he gives you. Like every time he's so creative with it. Yeah. With just movement to be able to get, I mean, he is a master of, you can watch his stuff. He's got some great stuff online now. Some more stuff he's been doing with the Academy kids. Some really cool videos there if people want to look that up. But it's just neat, the flexibility, the mobility before you have to go to strength and coordination stuff. It's really a full, as Angelo was saying, it's the full kinetic chain. Yeah.
Yes. And that's the other piece about the Burdenko is that it uses everything and then it incorporates that coordination piece. Yeah. He's on YouTube. I know for sure, because I know how to get on YouTube. Yeah. He's on something else. What's the other?
He's got him on what's the other video one?
What's the other one that everyone's on?
Vimeo. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. I think it's on Vimeo, but he's definitely good. He's got a bunch of it.
You can find him. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause at first he just had it on the discs and that you got for me, but he's got a lot of new stuff with the kids he's doing, which it's so cool. Watch him do that stuff. But, thinking about this, it's like, those are the kind of things that you've always pushed me and still do. And I try to have a full year plan. Luckily for me, some of the stuff is just work around the business and the farm absolutely helps, because I kind of tease Sue about that all the time. Old Coach Sue, I'll send something when we're splitting water. I got the chainsaw out and she says, well, yeah, it does count. She's kind of like you a little bit. She's like, it counts. Yes, it's there. But like, it's kind of that thing, you're doing one motion all the time. So, but a lot of folks, everyone has kind of their different way of getting ready for the ski season. It's definitely not always that athlete type way for our ski instructors and snowboard instructors per se. And we're in season now. So as you and I've talked a lot, they're not going to like fix something in terms of for the next 2 weeks. But what are some of the things that, I mean, you've coached me a lot just on maintenance. When we're in season, I'm skiing, 5-6 days a week. It's not like I'm trying to make huge gains now in the gym. Right. Or whatever I'm doing working out, and I'm on the bike a lot less, the cardio work, on the trainer. What are some of the things that people should do with like the Bosu ball or our rollers, which I know you're probably going to speak with the rollers because you have us do a lot of fascia break the tissue up in that, and Troy and I are big on the roller. We keep it with us all the time. But what are some things you think people should focus on during season, just as maintenance of flexibility, mobility, whatever they've been doing?
Well, I'll start with the rollers first, because it completely cracks me up that pre-COVID, when you and Troy were traveling all the time, so I knew when you're on the road, because I get the phone call and then I get both of you at the same time. But like you had the rollers in the back of the car, which completely also cracked me up. But I was very happy, because I think when you were training for one of your tryouts, I got you this whole stack of rollers.
Oh yeah.
And so I couldn't believe you were taking them on the road with you, but thank God. I mean, that's really what you need to do. And it's not like you spend, you guys are spending 45 minutes on the rollers every night. It was just roll it out. Whatever happened that day, you rolled it out, good to go, start the next day. But at this point in the season, you're not really going to make any progress. You can't really create a foundation, and you're not going to make any real progress. But the two most important things you have to do is if something hurts, you have to get rid of the soreness. And it is a 0 on the scale of 0 to 10. It needs to be down to a 0. So you got to ice, Epsom salt. There's another company, that MG12s, is a great company with salts and topical, and they've got some CBD stuff. Topricin. There's a whole mess of different topicals that you can use, but you got to do something to get rid of the soreness, because soreness, whether or not you can see it, means that you've got some level of cellular edema, right? So cellular puffiness, swelling, so it might not be swelling that you can see like an ankle sprain, but if it's sore, there's some swelling. It's part of the physiological inflammatory process. All right. So, and when you have that, then the body talks to itself and says, okay, everybody, you can't play. Right. So it shuts down muscle, tendons, everything in the area will not be at full tilt, because it's being told by your very own body every time there's a pain signal to not work. So you're really silly to be mid-season, whether you're getting ready for level 2 prep, level 3 prep, any of the tryouts, or just mid-season, as a ski instructor, that if something hurts, you got to address it. You got to do something with it. And if the topicals or your icing or the salt baths aren't enough for you, then you got to get yourself to acupuncture. You got to get yourself to massage therapy, or you might have to get yourself to PT, but take care of that. And then if you do nothing else, mobility. And so mobility is not just flexibility. Yes, you should be stretching, but your soft tissue mobility as well, which comes into your massage therapy, that you've got to make sure that the tissue has space to move, because every muscle tendon works at an optimal length tension relationship. So if you've got muscles that are too tight, it is not physiologically possible for them to maximize the force contraction that they could do if they were at their optimal length. So if you do nothing else, get rid of the pain and create some mobility. I mean, that right there might give you 20, maybe 25% of an edge, of just doing those two things mid-season.
And what should we do? I mean, you and I have talked about it, that for me, it's kind of my basis for my training program. And I do check it with you, that a big portion of my training is cardio. I mean, because I enjoy it. I enjoy getting on the bikes. I enjoy anything that gets the heart rate up kind of that way, especially on the bikes. And, but for me, I still need to have that cardio piece. I've talked to you a little bit, but I just wanted to speak to like how important is having some form of cardio, even if it's walking. Like, it's not like somebody has to get on the bike like Jess Stith or Greg Dolbeck, and those guys are going hundreds of miles a week. But I mean, how important is the cardio piece to keep the blood flow going to the muscles and to keep the heart pumping and that part? I mean, we are in a sport, but I mean, even for the flexibility, like how important is it to get blood to go there and get the blood pumping? Maybe a little bit even for that activity. Like, should we walk a little bit before we stretch and get on the rollers?
So if you can warm up somehow before you do any kind of a stretch, it makes it easier to stretch the tissue. So actually, if you want to do your cardio, do your bike and stretch when you get off the bike, because repetitive motions like that don't need a lot of stretching before you do them, but afterwards it would definitely help to stretch. So cardio is good, but it depends on what you're going after, because it depends on where you look. There's anywhere from 5 to like 12 components of fitness, and cardio is a component of fitness. So you've got your flexibility, mobility, you've got your cardio, you have your muscular strength, muscular endurance, and body composition. It's minimal. I mean, there's no resources that will talk about less than 5 components of fitness. There are some resources that will talk about more. So the challenge is to tap each portion of the 5 components of fitness to create your fitness level. Now, for you, and I know I give you a lot of grief about your biking, but but you're doing so much other stuff on the farm, so that you've got a lot of other movement patterns. You've got a lot of strength, you've got a lot of endurance, and that sustains your body comp. So there's other stuff that's kind of built in with the way that you're doing stuff. And some of the other people also have physical types of jobs. And so that helps. Where you get into trouble, and this isn't just with the part-timers, but mostly the part-timers, it's really hard as a part-timer to keep yourself fit because you're spending Monday through Friday pretty much at your desk. And I'll tell you, the last couple of years with Zoom have been awful. But so now how do you figure out how to work stuff in there? Because otherwise you've got to set aside a separate time to do your fitness work, or you're over fitnessing on the weekends. So it's really trying to figure out some kind of a balance where you're every single day, you're doing a little bit of something that's going to add to the quality of your overall fitness. And then I would add, it's not, your goals can be whatever you want them to be, but it would not be a goal to be fit for skiing. It would a goal to be fit so you could be a fit human being and be functional through your 60s, into your 70s, into your 80s. It's great that skiing's a carrot, but it shouldn't wax and wane. Like you go through this crazy fitness thing, you get ready for the ski season, and then you do nothing, and then you wait until you get close to the ski season again. I mean, if you want any kind of guidance, just go to Sue Kramer's book, and she's got it completely mapped out, color-coded for you as to, there's an active rest period at the end of the ski season in her book. So it just means that you're doing lighter stuff to try to give your body a chance to rest, and, any injuries, that need to heal up, definitely take care of that stuff before you move forward. But, it's only for a few months. And, by the time summertime hits, you ought to be starting to gear up again to prepare for a very active winter season. But it that also allows you to stay active during the fall. And it was one of the first times I actually heard it was from Chip Loring. God rest his soul. What a great guy he was. So, I was at a 4th of July party at his place in wherever it was in Winnipesaukee, and he was like, party arty, as soon as the 2 more days, we get 2 more days left before we have to get ready for the ski season. And that was after the end of my first round of teaching full time, and I was like, yeah, I get a job. I'm not doing this again. What are you, crazy? So but I looked at him and I was like, I never thought to think about that. I mean, but that he was right after 4th of July. That was his start date to get going for the ski season. And I was like, wow, that was pretty impressive.
Yeah. No, he's a great coach.
Yeah. Yeah.
Angelo's, I can tell he's he's formulating, processing.
So 0 pain. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah. So the scale goes 0 to 10, right? The scale doesn't go 1 to 10. It doesn't go 2 to 10. It goes 0 to 10. So no pain means 0. And healthy tissue means 0 pain.
That sounds like bullshit.
Like 0 means 0. Where are you right now?
What's that feel like? You mean existentially?
No.
Or physically?
I mean, like you're poking on the tissue and it doesn't hurt.
No.
I don't have any pain right now.
No. It's funny, Angelo. The one time, that's why I have this. Oh. The 1 year this is a training tool. Everybody's like, yes, you could eat with this, but this was sent in the mail to me to use as one of my exercise tools. But you
have to tell the podcast listeners what you're holding.
Oh, I'm gonna. Okay. But I was going into the fall. I'd been going through the summer, and I didn't know what it was. My feet were killing me, man. I couldn't get out. I'd get out of bed and I couldn't walk. I mean, I literally couldn't take a step. And you try to walk it off.
That's not a zero.
Had to work for the farm for the.
No, that's not a zero.
It's not a zero.
It wasn't a zero, man. It was not a zero. And I'm like, it's going to go away. It's going to go away. And, everything goes away eventually, right? It goes away. So I'm going through the summer and it's getting towards end of August and it's bad. And then like you get going during the day, it's okay. And then the end of the day, it's like, oh my God, it was like, couldn't walk. Yeah. So Margie's, I think I called you. And I said, hey, I got a little something going on. and she said, what? And I started telling her and she's like, oh my God, how long has this been going on? Oh, which I didn't know what it was at the time. I had plantar fasciitis, like so bad I could not walk. And as it was hitting August and Labor Day, because I was on the bike and it would hurt when I get off the bike. But it didn't hurt as much pedaling. And then Margie's like, and I told her when it started to hurt. Now I'm not going to say it right now. And she's like, "You're an idiot. I think you said those exact words. You're an idiot. You're an absolute idiot. I can't believe you didn't call me."
It was my exact words because it takes a while. By the time you called me, it was so sore. I mean, like I know the physiology of the tissue, right? It would have taken that long, to get it to the place where he was. So he was an idiot. He waited way too long, particularly, it's getting so close to ski season.
Well, that's what I said. I said, we just need to get this so I get my feet in the ski boots because I was nervous. I mean, they hurt so bad. I was like, how am I going to ski? Yeah. And the funny thing is in my ski boots, in my Alpine boots, at least, was like, that was the most comfortable part of the entire day, even because we worked on that. Jess had me down. We were down at Elk that winter for a whole week. I was down there staying with him. We were working at Elk, doing some events, and he had every morning he made me get up. You'll be happy, Margie, because we get up, we had to work, had to do our stretches in the morning. I had to do all my foot activities, the foot dome and all that. And I had to do the calf and Achilles stretches and rub the fascia. And that's what this is for. So Margie wanted to make sure during the ski season that I was rubbing out the calves, down to the Achilles and my heels. And she sent me this to use it.
You know, was that it's got a long handle on it, right?
It's got a long handle.
Yeah, well, it might have been down in North Carolina. So yeah, it's what I do is you use the handle of the spoon, and so you use it it's scraping. It's not digging. So there are some tools where you can dig, and it does make no sense to me to injure tissue to make it better. I mean, I don't get too high on that soapbox, but I mean, it just is not logical. But if you scrape it, the surface scrape, it has a phenomenal, it has to be neurophysiological because it can settle down the tension in the tissue immediately. It doesn't clear it, but it certainly makes it better. And it's from the treatment comes from the family called gua sha. It's Guasha. So, anyone who actually knows how to do gua sha would be horrified at the way that I've modified it. Because I'm using a spoon. But I use the handle of the spoon. So that spoon, though, is probably an iced tea spoon. So when I went down to North Carolina that year, I was so excited. I was in at like a Marshall's and I saw these iced tea spoons and I saw the length of the handles on the iced tea spoon. I'm like, this is so cool for gua sha because you could do your whole thigh. You could do your whole hamstring. Yeah. A regular like tablespoon or teaspoon is it's not too short, but it's just short. So I bought as many of them as I could. And brought them back up north. But I got the footbeds right away. I got my walk fits, and that's probably crazy. That's like the most pain I've been in for you said it wasn't, well, it is an injury, but not technically. I didn't do something to injure. I just overuse and didn't stretch, but yeah.
Well, see the tone I get right there, Angelo. It's just the tone.
Yeah. And all you can do is take it.
I take it. I tell you, it's like because I know I deserve it.
So, Margie, My acupuncturist does gua sha on me, and she talks about petechia. Can you talk about that for a minute? Like, what that is and what that means? And
so the petechia is just it's a response of the circulatory system, and it indicates an increase in blood flow in an area that's been so tight that the capillary system really hasn't been able to get any reasonable amount of blood flow in that area. Now, so she probably does the gua sha up until she can get that particular response. When I show it to people who I know can hurt themselves, I don't let them do it quite that deep, right? But so you can still get a response without having to do it quite that deep to get the particular response. And that's what I'm saying. Like a real person who's trained in gua sha would probably be horrified if you didn't bring it to that level. But it fascinates me on a neurophysiological basis that you can still get a relaxation of that tissue with that gentle level of input into the system. It's absolutely fascinating. But when you can go deeper with a petechia for sure, and it's in the same family as cupping. So, and cupping is obviously a little bit deeper because the suction of the cups can get deeper. But it's just a fascinating treatment. It's been around for a bazillion years, right? Because it's Asian medicine.
I am not excited when she gets that spoon out.
Yeah. So, but she does it deep. Like you can do a little more superficial to yourself. Actually, you know what? I don't know where she's doing it, but if you could reach it and you were doing it a little bit in between the treatments when she had to do it, she would probably have to do less.
It's typically on my neck, but
I do mine every night before I go to bed.
Yeah.
I'm on the computer so much, and so I'll gua sha my own neck every night before I go to bed.
Well, it's got to beat the hell out of her doing it because full disclosure.
So it's not a zero. It's not a zero when she does it, huh?
No,
it's not a zero when she would do it. And she'd probably be horrified.
I weep a little bit when she does it.
Well, if it's done appropriately by someone who's well trained, this is kind of a gua sha hack, but it's effective. It's I've shown a lot of people how to do it. I've had students when we had to first go to they were on clinicals and had to go to telemedicine, and they were showing their patients through telemedicine how to do it at home. I mean, like it can be. Again, it's fascinating as to how effective this can be without having to go as deep as she goes. And I think you should have training in it if you're going as deep as she goes. I mean, this is fairly superficial. It's hard to hurt yourself, but it can still be effective. So, anyways.
Well, and she does cupping too, and I'm sure I get benefit from it. You can feel it. It feels like I feel like I recover faster.
Yeah.
Well,
it's opened up the circulatory system on a microcirculation level. Because it's not that it's so compressed, or else your foot would be cold or your hand would be cold. But it's amazing how much our bodies take before they cry uncle, and that's the problem. Is that we don't listen until you hear your body say uncle. And even at that, you're like, did you say something? And then you just kind of ignore it until such time you like really have an issue. But that's this whole maintenance thing. Like if you had a system in place every day where you just did some daily checks and kept things open and running, then you wouldn't have these major catastrophes of, plantar fasciitis. You can avoid that.
You idiot.
I have my little spiky ball goes into the bag and travels with me.
Right.
That and the spoons in the bag. That's why I had to run upstairs before we got on the podcast. I forgot to bring it down because it's in the bag. And the roller goes in. Those are steadfast. I think it was the first because last year I didn't travel at all. Did everything from home. So we went to training and management seminar. Angelo. That was the first like out of the box, and I didn't have my ball with the spikes on it to roll my feet on it. Oh my God, did I miss it for 3 days, 4 days till we came home.
And how long does that take? I mean, you can do that when you're doing something else at night.
I do it. I just throw it. I just pull it out, and it's on the floor. So when I get back to the room, if we're on the road, and I'll roll it for 20, 30 seconds. If we're just changing quick and heading out to dinner or whatever, then I'll just even that amount. And then I'll get back when we do get back to the room, or like when I'm here at home, I just sit in front of the TV rolling on each foot. And at home, I got 2 of them. So I just do both feet at the same time. Yeah. Try to get it all done quick. But no, I mean, those are mainstays for me, that and the roller. I mean, Troy, sometimes we're calling you too, because we like to do those stupid things on the rollers that we, most of the stuff you want us doing right now is stretching and breaking up the fascia, but we do those stupid things where we're trying to, do core work on it. We got it down, it's laying the roller straight down the spine. So we got it down the middle of our back and then arms off the ground. We try to lift the foot and all that, and you laugh at us. But you showed us that. And if people try that one is brutal. Have you tried that, Angelo? Lay the roller down. So you lay on, so it goes from your butt up to your neck. Mm-hmm. So you got to balance on it as you're trying to roll. And then you pick your hands up. So you get both feet down. Legs are kind of, the knees are at 90. So your feet are flat. You're laying on it. And then you've got to pick up 1 foot off the ground. And I guarantee the first foot you pick, you'll pick it up. You probably won't have the right alignment with pelvis neutral, and your lower back won't be on the roller like Margie wants, but you'll do the first foot. Because we always pick, for some reason, Margie, why are we able to pick the one that we're going to be able to pick up? Because 99.9% of the crew we've done this with, I think I'm trying to think if Troy had Terry Barber do it too. I'm pretty sure everybody has, like, you can almost not pick up the other foot.
Yeah. Well, you always go to your strong side, but that, and like you're motor programmed that way. It's not something you have to really think about. But yeah, you'll pick up the side that you can do. Yeah. And then when you try to do the other side, but that, so you do something like that and you go to see the asymmetries in your body and you're like, holy mackerel. Do you know what cracks me up is the ed staff. So when I have a chance to work with some people from the ed staff,
look at it, 2 of them right here. And she's already going, oh my God, these guys are 2 of them.
I'm like, how the heck do you guys ski? It's like sometimes I look at them because we've done some off-hill stuff and you're all good skiers. And I was like, holy mackerel, it's just the asymmetries that get picked up that would be in your best interest to address, because at some point in time, the asymmetry is that you are able to compensate for right now is going to go beyond the compensation and something breaks, and again, that's that maintenance stuff. So if you guys play on the roller, I'm happy with that, because because then you see that you're asymmetrical in your motor pattern, and that like the next step, hopefully you do something about it. But
they turned it into a drinking game was the next step.
We actually have. Troy can explain the whole thing, but yeah, it pretty much is. Oh man, everything revolves around that end of the day.
That was not really the intent, but that's okay. I mean, awareness is the first step, right?
Well, that's how we kind of get it going and get somebody to get on the roller. So then when they try it, then they maybe later on realize I can't do that. So if I want to be better at the drinking game, I've got to be able to figure out how to do it. Those are those tricks that Troy's great at those. He'll always come with another one, like whether it's the exercise ball, the one of the rollers or something, standing on 1 foot, he'll come up with something. I mean, that's why he's so good at that stupid 1-footed pivot slip. He'll do that. I don't know if you've seen him do that, Angelo, but he'll do a 1-footed pivot slip and we all just stand there. And he was doing it once. We were at, I think we were at Whiteface or somewhere. I think Kathy Brennan was there too. And we were doing like an Eastern team training or something. And Troy's like, hey, look at this, man, try this. And he does a 1-footed pivot slip. I looked at it and I just skied off. I wasn't even trying it. Son of a bitch. I was so pissed.
When we were at Breckenridge, he had the roller and we were doing the core thing, when you lay on your spot. And then he busted out the tens unit and he was like, put it on this and turn it on high. Put it on this and turn it on high. Like your foot's going, wow. So
All the shit we do. We each got the TENS unit. We got the Theraguns now too, Margie. Those are killer, man. I love the Theragun.
And they're a good tool to use. Now, the only thing with the Theragun, if you have to use a Theragun in a particular location persistently, then you should really kind of think about why that tissue is so tight and do something about it. That would be the next step. So it's part of this is you guys get to the first step, and then you don't like take that second step as to what you should really be doing with it. But
yeah. When we get to the TENS unit, we're kind of hurting at that point. I know when I'm putting the TENS unit on, it's like, oh boy. Usually I get that when I'm at the chiropractor, but we have that little unit. That little unit is awesome.
It can be really effective.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty cool. Kathy Leahy got that for Troy and I when we were over at Wyndham, man. That was awesome gift. I was rubbing my elbow or something. My elbow was killing me for some reason, which I didn't get fixed. But the TENS unit seemed to fix it great, Marge.
Well, right. The TENS unit broke the pain pattern. It didn't it would be nice to know what the causative agent was as to why it was sore, or why you didn't ice it when it first started getting sore, or why you didn't use your little gua sha tool on it when it first started getting sore.
I was.
Oh, were you? Okay.
I was going to try to use my thumb.
They were in the bar and he overexerted his elbow doing 12-ounce curls. You got to get a straw when you feel the pain next time. Get a straw. And don't
just go two-handed.
Yep.
Oh man. Well, boy, here's one for you, Margie. There's some. I mean, everyone's starting to gear up. It's mid-January here. We're going through Martin Luther King weekend here, and people are getting ready for exams, getting ready for their ski exams for level 2 and 3, especially. We've got some big tryouts coming out for the ed staff early March for the ACE team, the Advanced Children's Educator, and we also have for the development team and for our East examiner training squad. I'm hoping they're listening so that they realize it's like maybe not time to like kill it in the gym 4 days a week.
Right. Right.
I mean, and what's some advice there going for those things? I mean, we've told them already. I think it's kind of reinforcement a little bit, but would you go beyond just, really focus on the flexibility in that? What would you give them from advice from now? Because, we're only a month and a half away from the tryouts.
Yeah. So definitely that pain thing with the concept that 0 means 0 is a good thing. Mobility is a good thing. And then trunk stabilization. So getting a lot of people don't use that roller in the long fashion, the way they like to put it from the head to the butt, and work on top of that, because it will help to bring in your obliques as well as your transverse abdominis. So it brings in multiple abdominal muscles, which is good. And then the other thing to do is to flip and do bird dog.
Yep.
So which means you literally look like a dog, right? So you're on your hands and knees. And so you are lifting one arm on one side and the leg on the other side. So you're getting a diagonal stability pattern across your back. And if your back breaks, or if you rotate, then start on the ground, or you can lay on top of the roller and start doing it that way. But basically create stability through the trunk of your body by getting not your rectus abdominis, but transverse and obliques. And then the multifidi are the little muscles in the spine and the back. If you did those 2 pieces to give yourself some stability, then when you're using your legs, you've got a stable platform that your legs are moving from. I mean and you usually can't hurt yourself on the roller or the bird dog usually. So it would be safe that you wouldn't be doing something silly. Now, what would be silly would be to take up something like is it the TRX with the straps? Like if you started that like right now, that would be silly. It's just way too far on the trunk stabilization continuum, and don't medicine balls. This is not the time to be pushing your body with medicine balls. So you got to go at the basics that simple trunk stabilization work would get the job done for you.
Yeah. And
you sent us a text or an email a couple of weeks ago or a couple of months ago, maybe about, I don't know what we were talking about. I think we had recorded another podcast. We were talking about planks, and then you sent us an email about pikes. So you want to talk about pikes to the people?
So I do listen to the podcast. And I heard you guys talking about planks and the importance of planks. And I just wanted to clarify. Planks are a good trunk stabilization exercise if you can plank, right? So a plank would mean that your body would look like a piece of wood that you would want on the deck of your house, right? Nice and flat. If someone's doing a plank and their body is in a position and you would not want that piece of wood on the deck of your house, then that's a pike. So most of the time when people do planks, they're using their hip flexors and their butts up in the air, and they're really not strengthening their core at all. What they're doing is tightening up their hip flexors, which is really bad. So if you can't do a plank correctly, then don't do it. Then get on your back on top of the roller and do the knee to chest stuff, or get into the bird dog position and do the multifidi, but don't plank. I mean, it's silly. It's silly. So make sure you.
That was a funny email. I got to go back. We got to go back and find that one because she had some funny stuff in that one. Kind of how that led into that.
You could almost, when you read it, you could almost see the disdain.
Yeah. There was a tone. I could hear her voice when I read the email. I could hear Margie's voice in my ear saying the words. It was like, yeah.
It was palpable.
So, hey, Marge, how's this one for off snow? Like right now, because this is part of mine. You have me do quite a bit in even the lead up summer, fall. The 1-footed balance stuff. Just standing on one foot for the 30 seconds a minute, going to the other one, doing so many reps of it.
Yeah. So even the single foot balance stuff, you got to be careful of though, because in order to do single foot balance, you've got to have enough of flexibility in your hamstring, calf, and the bottom of your foot, right? So that you can actually stand on your foot. You need to have some semblance of trunk stability because you need to be able to have your pelvis in neutral, right? So it's not tipped forward, so you don't have a super arch in your low back. And then if you have the flexibility in that lower leg shank and you have the positioning of the trunk, then you can use all those muscles to balance over the foot. And then when you balance over the foot, you want to make sure you're over the center of the foot. So you just pull your toes up off the ground. And because a lot of times when people do single foot balance, they're literally just driving their toe flexors into the floor, the rug, wherever you are. And it doesn't really matter any place, but if you're trying to work balance, having really strong toe flexors are not going to get it done. So whether you're an older person walking across the street, or if you're on the hill, driving those toe flexors in to try to grab the balance is not going to get it done. You really ought to, you guys probably think I'm weird anyways, but if I'm on steeper terrain and I'm trying to figure out where I am and I'm not really where I want to be on my feet, I will flip my toes up in my boots and find my arch and get over the center of that arch, pull myself back over so I know I'm on top of my arch and I'm not using my toes to try to get the job done, because it means my body is not centered. So I can't balance. Balance is all about the body centered over the foot. It's not really just an activity in of itself. It's an outcome. So there's a series of components that go into being on the balance on that foot.
Yeah. Well, that's why I try to coach, because everyone gets into that. Well, I got to work on balance. Yeah. So for me, like even when they when I start out as for a demo per se, or even just a ski run, you've watched me enough. Every single time I start any run, I start in the fall line, unless there's some tactical reason or I'm scared that I go across the hill, which I try not to be. I start in the fall line, even if it's for half a ski length. But when I start in that half ski length, I go into skier stance. I had to move to be where I want to stand, where I want to be flexed. And to me, it's like, that's not a static. I moved to be there. And like you're saying, it's like you have to move to be in balance. I don't think people think of that enough. My thing.
Yeah, it just gets back to doing a little bit of everything for your body. Because if you stayed mobile and you kept your core strong, you would wind up with some reasonable balance without doing a lot of other stuff. It's like, it's funny what people tag up on. Like, they'll stand on one foot and then they look like they're an embarrassing flamingo, right? So like, they're not even standing on one foot upright like a cute little flamingo. They look like a pretzel flamingo trying to stand on one foot. It's like, what's the point? That's not single foot balance. Right?
Well, that's what you see when someone takes off and they're doing a one-footed ski task.
I know.
You see the flamingo.
Like, that's not getting it done.
So here, I think I know you're going to say yes to this one, that when you and I go out in the morning and we're getting ready to go ski, everyone's standing there shooting the breeze, shooting the shit, and you and I are skating around.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're skating around, we skate, and I turn it around and I do the thing. I want to skate backwards too. So I'll be skating around forward. I'll be skating around backwards, doing figure eights. How important is that to have something like that to get going in the morning when you're going to go skiing?
It's cold out. Like, why would you not warm your body up and try to get it? Skating's awesome because it requires so much of the integration of the skills. And so why not warm up your body a little bit? Especially for me, part of the reason why I skate is because I'm in the office Monday through Friday. So it's like, those are not movement patterns that I use during the week. And so I just want to kind of remind my body because of course we go up with you and we ski ptarmigans, right? So
Yes.
it's not like we glide into this thing. So I just got out of my office chair. I've been driving up in my car Friday night. And if I'm lucky, I'm up by 9:00. We're on the hill first thing in the morning. And I've gone from, level flat stuff. And then we're up in the chairlift and then we're going down ptarmigan. So, I do it for that reason, but it interests me what people do or don't do. And I picked that skating up from Tom Chassie because he would skate, right off the bat. But most of the time people are just sitting around shooting the shit. It's like, you can get a lot of work done when people sit around shooting the shit, because on the backside of the day, and we've talked about this too, it'd be in the pro room. I could get a good chunk of my stretching in while everybody, I get changed, ready to go, and then you're waiting for people. I could get a fair amount of stretching in before we go across the street to Matty B's. It's like, meanwhile, everyone else is just sitting around hanging out, but.
Fighting about tunes on skis and who had the best fall of the day, all that stuff. But hey, we could talk forever. So Angelo, I saw you writing down. Do you have something here before we close up? And
I just want to be clear on how much pain. Two is normal, right? 0. I don't know.
And she loves the 0 because she knows we're a bunch of zeros.
I want a second opinion on that.
Oh God!
No, it's been terrific. Thanks, Margie, for guys. It's fun chatting.
Yeah.
It's always fun to talk with you guys.
We hope to have you back. I know I would imagine we'd get some questions because a lot of people want to get in better shape, and time is always a thing, and how they can maximize their time in that. So I imagine people will, as they do whenever we have Sue on and we talk about some exercise stuff, they're always like, well, can you go more specific? Can you give me the exact 5 exercises that'll make me a level 3? And I'm still searching. If you can find those
5 exercises to get to level 3.
Yeah, just 5. I do these 5 minutes a day with this one. But I mean, we all search for those things. But thanks for being on. It's been
sure.
You and I've talked a lot since I've started the podcast. We just haven't had the schedule. And I'm psyched you came on, and we'll definitely want to have you back multiple times. So we'll see how things go and what we can chat about, because we can always come up with something. We chat forever about what's going on with skiing, and that with your background in both skiing and outside of skiing is tremendous. And I hope people maybe put some comments on the YouTube or send us some stuff if they have some thoughts or questions, because Margie definitely, she's not going to answer 1,000 emails, but if there's a couple of real big questions we see, we'll definitely try to throw something out to answer those.
Sure.
Wealth of knowledge. And I always say thanks, because Margie, you're always there to help out me and so many other folks, and definitely helped me to get where I'm at. So thank you. And we'd also like to thank our friends of the podcast that make this all possible for us to keep doing this, to make it easier for us, with Blizzard Technica, and also with Nick's Boot Fitting, which Angelo, with his fatter foot now with the big toe from the skateboard thing, might have to have a little more Nick doing something, or somebody.
I was going to have to drive up to Mount Snow to get Nick to work on my boot. Big toe.
So I want to know, if the foot's a little fat now, we grind it out, and then the inflammation comes down with the stuff Margie's saying, then are we going to glue the material back in, or?
We'll do whatever it takes. Duct tape. Whatever.
Dr.
But I'm
King,
doing.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Doing
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Angelo. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I'm going to do it all pain-free. That's my new
0. 0 is the number. 0. So when she did it like this, she didn't mean 3. She meant the 0, because they
that's why I had to put my fingers down. I don't want anything to. I don't want to be misconstrued. Yeah.
Yeah. But awesome, Angelo. It's always fun, man, doing this with you. And Dr. King, thank you so much. And hopefully I'll see you maybe end of the week. Are you skiing up Friday?
I am not. I'm actually going to a conference to learn more things this weekend.
All right. I'll see you probably the week after that. I'm at Bretton Woods next week. But awesome. Thanks, everybody. And hope to hear your comments and thoughts. We're out. This is Chaos and Company, the Fall Line.